the metaphysical and spiritual connection of melanated Indigenous Aboriginal Americans to the land. The story of the melanated Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, or the Americas, begins with a profound connection that is not only physical, but deeply spiritual and metaphysical. This bond is rooted in the earth, where our ancestors' footsteps have left impressions on the soil, and our spirits resonate with the landscape's mountains, rivers, forests, deserts, and skies. We are more than just the inhabitants of these lands. We are its caretakers, woven into the tapestry of its flora, fauna, and sacred structures like ancient mounds, pyramids, and towering mother trees. These sites are symbols of the resilience, ingenuity, and sacred duty carried forward by each generation, a spiritual and genetic legacy. For millennia, melanated Indigenous peoples of America have maintained a sacred relationship with the land. This connection extends beyond geography. It's woven into the very fabric of our identity. Through bloodlines and cultural practices passed down for generations, we've preserved wisdom about the land's cycles, its healing plants, its powerful animals, and its energies. Our ancestors recognized the metaphysical essence of the land. With each mound, river, and mountain holding specific vibrations that aligned with spiritual principles and cosmic energies. We are genetically and spiritually tethered to this land, carrying the legacy of the mound builders, the Mississippians, and the ancient Mayans, civilizations that cultivated Turtle Island long before European arrival. Our ancestors left traces in the form of architecture, agriculture, and sacred symbols meant to echo through time as reminders of our roots. These markers have always served as testimonies to our existence, our knowledge, and our and our contributions. We are the copper-colored people spoken of in early records, and these monuments remain as evidence of the indigenous civilizations that thrived here. We are the descendants and predecessors of the sharecroppers, who sustained the land and maintained a continuous connection to its resources and heritage through generations. The 5 civilized tribes and misclassification of indigenous identity. The concept of the 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Muskogee, and Seminole, has played a significant role in the narrative surrounding indigenous identity in America. As explained by Chief Arna, Dr. Ali, in Unveiling the Truths About the 5 Tribes, these tribes were among those who faced both forced assimilation and collaboration with settler governments. Their classification as civilized was a political move that attempted to integrate indigenous groups into European norms. Many melanated indigenous peoples were pushed out or denied recognition due to their refusal to assimilate fully or accept imposed racial classifications. This resulted in the loss of tribal lands, resources, and legal status, as many melanated individuals were subsequently labeled Black or Negro, furthering the erasure of their indigenous identities. This mislabeling has perpetuated across generations, where many indigenous people who share lineage with these tribes remain legally categorized as African American or Black, despite their authentic heritage and ties to Turtle Island. The impact has been not only on legal and social recognition, but also on cultural and spiritual ties to the land and traditional practices. The obstruction of knowledge and the colonization of minds. Despite the undeniable connection between melanated indigenous peoples, and Turtle Island. Efforts to obscure this truth have been relentless. European colonization brought with it a systematic campaign to sever our people from this identity, strip away spiritual knowledge, and dismantle our structures. Colonial powers created narratives designed to erase the legacy of indigenous people as the original Americans. Educational systems, especially, were manipulated to keep the truth hidden from us. Schools taught a version of history where the indigenous contributions were minimized or outright ignored, framing European discovery as the beginning of history. This narrative led to a collective amnesia among indigenous descendants, fostering confusion and disconnect from their own history. Simultaneously, our spiritual practices were forbidden, often condemned as primitive or dangerous. Traditional languages, songs, dances, and ceremonies were banned or disrupted, breaking essential links that would have kept our knowledge intact. The suppression of this knowledge weakened our communities, leading many to feel disconnected from the land and from their ancestral purpose. How did colonization happen on our lands? Colonization succeeded not only through brute force, but also by exploiting divisions and creating dependency. European powers used tactics like manipulation, promises of protection, and gifts of resources to coerce indigenous leaders into alliances that gradually eroded their autonomy. Colonizers also encouraged competition between different tribes and communities, destabilizing the unity that would have been powerful enough to resist colonization. Additionally, settlers introduced systems alien to indigenous ways of governance, such as private property and centralized leadership, to undermine traditional forms of collective land stewardship. Through treaties, land theft, and warfare, the colonizers claimed Turtle Island piece by piece, often displacing entire communities. Over time, the introduction of Christianity and European cultural norms replaced indigenous spiritual practices, further severing our people from their roots. But the spiritual connection to Turtle Island never truly disappeared. Despite the attempts to sever it, this bond remains in our hearts, encoded in our blood, and alive within our communities. Modern indigenous movements have reignited the desire to reconnect with this ancient wisdom, urging a return to traditional values that honor the earth, our ancestors, and each other, reawakening and reclaiming our heritage. Today, as melanated indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, we are reclaiming our identity and renewing our bond with the land. We are unearthing the knowledge suppressed for centuries, guided by the echoes of our ancestors who live on in our DNA, our customs, and our hearts. Across the Americas, indigenous people are revitalized in traditions, languages, and ceremonies, restoring the cultural wisdom and spirituality that colonization tried to erase. This reawakening is more than cultural revival. It is an assertion of identity and resilience. By educating ourselves and future generations about our true history, we are healing the trauma inflicted on our communities. We are also recognizing our inherent rights to the land, stepping up as stewards once more, and reclaiming the narratives of Turtle Island. As we rebuild our connection with Turtle Island, we honor our role as caretakers and protectors. Our identity as the original inhabitants of these lands is not only a matter of historical fact, but also a spiritual truth that empowers us to move forward. The legacy of our ancestors continues in each of us, and by reconnecting to this wisdom, we preserve our rightful place as the first peoples of Turtle Island. This reconnection is not only a journey of self-discovery, but a profound homecoming where we remember who we are and the sacred responsibility we carry as Indigenous people of America. Article written by Freddie A. Williams L. Bay, Indigenous Autochthon Chief, Chief Environmental and Sustainability Officer, and Head Chief Developer, Writer, and Publisher. This article reflects insights from Chief Arna Dr. Ali, Unveiling the Truths About the Five Tribes, which explores the complexities and historical dynamics of the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole peoples, and Uncovering Ancient Civilizations of the Americas, which highlights the legacy of ancient American civilizations and their descendants.